Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce Stephanie Laflora, my guest on the Hair Like Hers podcast. We are going to have a conversation that is a little bit for hairdressers, a little bit for the consumer, something we've never really done before. So I'm so excited. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to talk all about your background, what brought you to what you're doing today, which is Crownhunt, and how excited I personally am about it coming from the hairdressing side of the industry. I think that this is something everybody could have used years ago. And so tell us all about it. Give us your background, who you are, where you came from, and what Crownhunt is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I am actually from tech. That is my background. So initially, people always assume with Crown Hood that I am in the hair industry in terms of being a hairstylist, but actually, the whole origin story of Crown Hunt comes from the consumer experience. So when I moved to Colorado, which is where I live now, I was looking for someone to style my hair, and my natural texture is a coily afro texture. And I overestimated, I guess, or underestimated, I should say, how difficult that might be in a new town. Because what I didn't realize at the time was that I had always gotten my hair styled, found a stylist through word of mouth. And it's like it had never occurred to me that that was the case until then, because here I was in a new town. I didn't know anybody. And I was one of like 25 people at my company at the time. And so my network was extremely small. And so suddenly I had to find a hairstylist. So I started looking for local salons and visited several, was rejected from all of them. This is in Denver. This is in Boulder, Colorado. This is in like this in between suburbs, like tried several salons, and they let me know in the lobby before I could even get to the chair that they could not style my hair. And the reason why they couldn't style my hair was because they had not been trained on how to style and care for coily hair. And that blew me away, first of all, because, I've gone my whole life getting my hairstyle. But then on top of that, it blew me away that that wasn't part of the training. And so immediately I saw that as a huge opportunity and used my tech and startup company background to investigate that further and come up with what we have today, which is a online platform for hairstylists to learn how to style and care for curly and textured hair and connect them with the consumers who are looking for their skill.
I mean, I think it's so awesome that you yourself recognize this pain point and specifically with textured hair. I mean, coming from a hairdressing background, I learned, I was in my mother's like schools, like educational background. And yeah, and even then, like I wasn't really equipped with handling textured hair completely. And I even myself in New York, I had a couple clients that came in and sat in my chair and were recommended to me by other people, but not necessarily with their own texture. And even as a hairstylist, like it's really overwhelming to be in that position and be like, I don't know if I have the skills to actually help this person the way that they need and be able
Mhm.
to offer to them something that would really like make the best of their hair and make the best of the experience. And that's it's just I remember like I would get so nervous in those situations and you obviously pull it off because like you're skilled and you know the foundation and but still like it's not fair to the consumer because you're not able to offer them something fully. So I just think the general education in this space about textured hair is so needed in the industry. And I think everybody needs to start learning it. And I think the schools need to start implementing it more,
Mhm.
right? Because at the end of the day, like
Absolutely.
there's so many hair textures out there, and it's not even like, African American hair. Like, you can find people from all over the world that have
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
textured, really, coily hair that can be stubborn to a lot of styles and that can be more difficult, needs to be cut a certain different way, needs to be colored a certain way. And I just think the whole kind of category needs to be a lot more broader.
Well, yeah, and I think that that's one of the things that I enjoy giving people an aha moment around that is like 65% of of the population in the US has curly hair. 65%, that's over
Wow.
200 million people. So like when I say that, it's because I think, there's often an assumption, especially because, I'm Black, that the company is primarily serving Black consumers or stylists who style, predominantly African American community. And that's just not the case. It's actually, if you talk to anybody who has really curly hair, they have core stories. Every single one of them have
Right.
it. And it's because the industry as a whole really was not educated on this giant group of people. Now, to be fair, because I really think this is important, it's a shame for the consumer, but it's also a shame for the stylist. Like they went to a school that they felt really great about that promised them that they would be prepared for styling the hair in their local community. And there was a big gap in that education. So I really see it as a huge opportunity to empower both the consumer, but also to empower these hair entrepreneurs. And I believe that hair entrepreneurs is what we call them all the time, stylists, because there's always some other thing. They're making products, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're educating.
Right.
These hair entrepreneurs really are some of the most industrious people, I think, in the country. And I am honored to create technology that supports them. And I think that there's just, because of my background in tech, I see industries like, let's just say Web3, which people might not even know what that is. But when you talk NFTs, when you talk crypto, when you talk that kind of stuff, that's a whole world, right? Of new idea that's being funded. There's been technology platforms built to support it. And so what I see is that there is a lack of wide support for certain industries. And I am personally passionate about taking the skills that I have and applying that to industries where, especially in the hair industry, hairstylists are 91% female and 38% BIPOC. So to me, if we can figure out a way to make a big difference in this industry and empower these entrepreneurs, it's a pretty big deal for our economy. And so I think that that's just one of those things that
Love
I just
that.
get excited about.
I love that. Us artists depend on you talented techies because, we need
Right.
to join our forces and do exactly what you're doing. I love that, Stephanie. That's like, this is why you're on the show. Like, it's just such a beautiful, mission that you're on that I really respect. Okay. So let's talk about, how do people identify and find a good stylist, right? Like, your platform is designed to help people do that. What do we need to know? What are people looking for and how can they improve their hunt?
Yes, because that's how the name originated. I was on the hunt for my career. So there's a couple of key things that I think when you're looking for a hairstylist, it's first of all, it's really difficult to find stylists right now. Fully acknowledging that because there's a lot of stylists online on like Instagram, and it's like hard to identify which of them actually is licensed versus not licensed and all these different things. So here's a quick couple tips on how to find a stylist. First of all, if they offer a consultation, that's always a good sign, especially if you have curly or coily textured hair, because then they are actually analyzing what is your hair type, and they're not applying some generic process to your hair. They're actually thinking about what's the best process for your hair. And they're asking you questions about like, how often is your hair dry, and like what types of products are you using? How's your hair responding to those products? If you are talking to a stylist that's asking you those kind of questions, you can feel pretty confident that they are going to be good at what they do.
A
Another one is that,
professional that's not just, like, looking to jump into it and get
right.
it started, and that basically means that they're applying, like, a cookie cutter method to their, hairstyling, where it's just like, "Okay, we sit, I know what to do, it's the same thing as the last person," and there are, I think unfortunately you can find a lot of uninspired artists and whatever respective art, but that's so true. When you take the time to sit your client down and have the consultation, it says
Mhm,
that 1, you care, 2, you're a professional,
mhm,
and 3, you understand that everybody's needs are so unique.
mhm. And especially if you have textured hair, you want that conversation to happen because it isn't cookie cutter. Even
Right.
within the same, even within curly hair, it's not cookie cutter.
Right.
And so if you're trying to go into a salon with curls and walk out with your curls, that's the key that I'm saying here, because people with curly hair still have difficulty even if they want to straighten their hair, because not everybody can straighten their hair. Well, my story that I was telling, I was trying to get a blowout. So this was to get my hair straightened. This wasn't even to walk out the shop with an afro. And
Right.
people were afraid of that. But especially if you are actually trying to go in with your natural curls and you're trying to walk out with your natural curls, either with a new color or a new cut, like you need someone who feels confident doing that. And you can find that out in that consultation. There's also stylists that will educate because of a huge shift towards people wearing their hair natural, which hadn't been the case, 15 years ago. But now people are wearing their hair more natural. They didn't grow up necessarily, knowing what products use. Frankly, half these products didn't even exist. 2020 has changed the game for curly hair. So like so much new information, products, like all this, it's a lot. It's new for everybody. And I think being a consumer is pretty overwhelming right now when it comes to hair. So if you have a hairstylist that also educates you on your own hair, like, oh, you should use this product, or, you see this buildup, that's happening because you're doing this. If you have someone that does that, it takes a lot of the stress out of you getting your hairstyle because now you have a trusted consultant on your hair. And so that's a really big deal as well.
Love that. It's like all the fine details are just they're going like the extra mile to help you.
Mhm.
It's so
They
nice.
are, and you need it. You definitely need that. That makes a big difference. And then I think the other stuff is just really straightforward, like look at what they have, what hair they've done. Have they done hair textures like yours before? This is something that I run into all the time, especially when it comes to, let's say, color. I love vivid color, although I have dark hair right now, but I have all kinds of crazy colored hair on my Instagram. But I love vivid color. And so, when you have curls, you're trying to protect that curl pattern. You might have naturally drier hair, or your hair is it might be darker naturally. So, you're really stripping your hair. And when you're doing the bleach, whatever, you want to find somebody who not only is amazing at like cool color, but also they understand how not to damage your hair in the process. That one's a big one for me. And so I'm usually reaching out to people and saying, hey, have you styled this texture hair? But you can also look at if they have an Instagram or something like that, or a website. Do you see anybody with your curl pattern in their photos? And if you don't, then you should definitely ask questions before you start, because the process to color, you know, coily hair versus straight hair can be dramatically different in terms of what products they use, the process itself. And you do not want to damage your hair with somebody experimenting on you.
Right. Okay, great. I love that. Those are great tips. Do they do a consultation? Are they educating you in the process? Are they familiar with your hair type? Have they styled your hair type? Do you have proof? Can they show pictures? What is your Instagram handle for everybody so
It's
they can follow you?
it's just my full name. So it's at Stephanie Laflora, Laflora. So the flower.
Guys, go ahead and creep. I have to see these hair colors. I haven't seen it myself, so
Yeah, I've got green, I've got red, I've got like super like white blonde,
Ooh,
like braids. That was one of my favorites. That one was pretty cool. We might have to go back in the feed a little bit for that one,
yeah,
but it's good.
okay. Okay, let's go deep. We'll go deep. Okay, so the next question, let's talk about how stylists can join your platform and what
Yeah.
they can look forward to. Let's talk about this from the hairstylist side.
Absolutely. So if you're a hairstylist and you're listening to this, you might have been nodding aggressively the whole time when it comes to thinking about what was your cosmetology school experience, and how confident that you walk out of that experience in terms of styling curly or curly hair. Or even as you're hearing my story, is like, has someone had that story in your chair before? That is something that I just want to say first. I think there's a lot of change happening in the industry and in our country related to inclusion. And I think that there's a lot of fear around getting it wrong. And maybe, people didn't do certain hair textures in the past. And so there's a lot. I understand that this is actually a very loaded conversation, and I respect both sides of the equation. But I also see from an outsider's perspective, an industry that really didn't prepare, stylists for me to go sit in your chair, in general. And that's anybody, no matter what, your background is ethnically as a stylist. I mean, everybody went to the same types of schools for the most part. So what Crownhunt does is we offer a subscription for education. There's a lot of classes online out there, but what if you could get access to all the classes you need to be confident in style and curling hair with one subscription? And so right now we actually have a deal where if you join as a founding member, this is very early because we're early. We're early. I should say that. We've been out for about a year. We are now shifting to that subscription model. So we actually have a wait list. If you pay in advance for that wait list, you actually can get 2 years for one. But you also join this really amazing community that we are growing of stylists across the country who are passionate about being able to serve every member of their community. And that's a really big deal. So that's what we're about. That's what we're doing. So it's community, it's classes. And then we're also looking to do some really amazing, innovative things down the line, including connecting you to consumers that are local that are looking for somebody who can style their curly hair. We're focused on Denver for that right now, which is where we're based, but we'll have that coming down the line and just having it be your hub as a stylist for everything you need. So we'll be growing and expanding what that looks like over time.
That is so exciting. E Every hairdresser should join. It's just like a wealth of knowledge just waiting to be discovered, getting plugged into this community. I think that's so awesome.
Mhm.
The industry as a whole just needs that.
And it's very affordable
Mhm.
pricing, especially compared to like the average hair class. It's
Yeah.
pretty affordable.
I love that you're making it accessible.
Mm.
That's what we need. And hairdressing, like school, like hair college is expensive,
Yes,
and
it
yet
is.
you're not even covering textured hair.
A lot of times not even covering business, which is another thing that we
Right.
include, marketing and things like that. Yeah, it's wild. It's really wild. So as like again, as an outsider, I was able to look at it and say, whoa, like there's like resources that I expect in my industry that I don't see here. Why
Right.
doesn't that exist here? Or at least why is it more accessible? Because I think there are disparate resources out there, but it's up to a stylist to do all the research to find it. There aren't hubs.
Right.
And so we're really trying to become that hub where you can learn about the different resources that are available to you, even outside of what we have to offer.
Let's talk about the biggest struggles women with textured hair are actually facing today. Let's just open that up, the reality that's going on.
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, first of all, I kind of highlighted on that a little bit earlier. It's like information overload, right? Like all of the sudden, just to like give like a super micro brief history of texture here, prior to 2020, there had already been a movement that was growing related to people wearing their hair natural. And it was happening in two different ways. On one hand, there's like a giant community of Black women and Afro Latina women who have been continuously embracing their curls more and more and rejecting this notion that they needed to have Eurocentric aesthetics in order to be seen as professional or beautiful. So that was already happening. But then 2020 really like exploded it, both on the cultural level, because there's much more of that happening now culturally where people are embracing the natural selves and there's many allies that are like supporting that. But then also there's like just the like plain reality of 2020. You didn't leave your house, your hairstylist was unavailable, you wore sweatpants for a year, and all of a sudden, like the grooming habits changed, I think. And so people were just experimenting more and trying new things. And TikTok was taking over, like how you wear your hair. And it was all home DIY stuff. And so I think all of that really made it so that people were doing their own hair a lot more often and trying new things. But with that came this explosion of content. There's so much stuff. I mean, there's millions of YouTube videos on how to style your hair. There's a crazy amount of beauty hair influencers that are out there. Hairstylists started really using social media to grow their audience, and now people are traveling across the country to get their hair done. I got my hair done this style in Los Angeles. Shout out to Bonita Rebels. She was really good. Like,
Amazing. For anyone that's not, like, watching right now, if you're not on YouTube watching this, I love your hair like that.
thank you. So information overload is a big one. And then I think just like the rise of the social media stylists, and this is no diss to social media stylists. I love social media. I love everything modern, obviously, tech. But what it did was it made it difficult for the consumer to know who's like qualified and who's not. And there's a lot of people who are not qualified that have huge followings. So
Mhm.
that becomes very confusing because I don't know, I don't know what I'm looking for in that way.
Right.
And so I think that with that just comes, finding a stylist that knows how to care for your texture. And then like the bombshell that came out recently
Mhm.
of, straighteners being linked to ovarian cancer, which is in some ways, I think shocking and not shocking, right? The harshness, like, if you ever had a relaxer done to your hair, my first relaxer was at 4 years old. To
Mhm.
give you perspective, that's not unusual. It was very prominent, especially in the Black community. In fact, 60% of that market is Black women. So this is really overwhelmingly an African American product. Um, I had my first relaxer at 4 years old. and I kept having relaxers until I think when I was 20, I stopped wearing
Wow.
chemically straightening my hair. And so we didn't know that. You wouldn't put a product in your 4-year-old's hair that you thought could lead to cancer. Like you would never do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, right.
No,
And
no
it's
one
like,
questioned how strongly they smelled and the fact that it could really do damage to your skin and your scalp, and what was it
right.
actually chemically doing to your hair, breaking the bones, the structure of your hair and resetting it? Like, yeah, no one asked any questions.
I know, even though it like totally burn your scalp sometimes, and there were like signs, but at the same time, as a consumer, the assumption is that you won't be able to sell me a product that is bad for me.
Right,
That's just an assumption as a
right.
consumer. So I think that that's something that's happening in the community is people are finding these links and worried and concerned about their health, and people have hair loss because of these products. And I will say that there's been a huge shift away from chemical straighteners even before this report. That
Yeah,
has already been happening because like the sales of these things have dropped like 25%. There's signs that people were already making the shift even without those reports,
right.
because I think there was some awareness and awakening happening, especially in America, I would say, where people are rejecting harsh chemicals overall. I mean, people are not even trying to wash their clothes with harsh chemicals
That's
anymore.
right.
And we're putting this stuff on our scalp, on our
Right.
skin. So I think people were rejecting these chemical straighteners anyway because they were kind of making that comparison of like, what am I putting on my body?
Right.
But it definitely is a big deal. And I think it says a lot
Yeah,
about.
and also just like just it's so great to see women like embrace their own hair and not have to feel like they're subjected to these harsh chemicals and having to make their hair straight. And like for you to have, so basically you were saying that you were chemically straightening your hair from ages 4 to 20.
Mhm.
So that means your hair was never natural or
No,
styled in
I
any
didn't
other
even
way.
actually know what my natural hair looked like
Wow.
at all. I had no
So
idea.
wild. Mhm.
It because I mean, at 4, I don't remember I don't remember 4. So, really,
But you
I had
remember the
never seen.
stinky straightener,
Yeah, seriously, and but, yeah, I had never seen my natural hair, so there's something that people talk about a lot called the big chop, and
right?
it's where people are essentially cutting on their straightened hair because the way that it works is kinda similar to hair color, like, once the hair is straightened, it just is until and everything that grows in as new hair is what has your original texture, and so people are cutting off that straightened hair to grow out their natural texture. So I didn't even know what my hair texture looked like. And there's stories of that all over the place of people discovering it. Again, why information overload is a real thing because I knew how to style my hair. I was good at styling my hair. And then at 20, my hair was a completely different texture. And all of a sudden I have to relearn everything as to what it even takes for me to style my hair. So that was a
Right.
big difference too.
Right. And like that's wild at age 20 to finally like finally be able to like manage your hair or be able to like actually take the responsibility for it.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
I
not
mean,
for
like,
anybody. It's like everyone has to like
yeah,
understand what their hair is like, right? At any level. But that's just so wild. You went from one extreme to another all of a sudden.
and I think that there's also been like cultural acceptance. Like for a long time, people with curly hair, period, all the way to coily hair and afros did not feel like they could go to work with their hair in its natural state and be seen as
Right.
professional. And because of that, things like the Crown Act
Thank
exist.
goodness for the Crown
You know?
Act. Oh,
So
that's the
that
best thing
that
that's ever happened to women, just like liberating women. And having to
it's
feel like
wild.
you have to have your hair a certain way for work, that's ridiculous. We don't have time for that. No one has time for that, right?
No, no.
Like,
And also for the record, curls are fire. Coils are fire.
fire.
Afros are sexy. Afros are
Sexy.
professional. Okay.
Oh, so
Locks
many
are
things. So
beautiful.
many.
So it's just like, now things are more interesting.
Mhm. Exactly, right?
Y'all, you're
Like,
welcome.
yes. Yeah, exactly, right? It's like the beautiful canvas that we are all now exposed to of
Yeah.
women embracing their natural textures and playing within so many different ways and like just not opting for that one quick solution of straightening it. And like even in like, I mean, in anybody, like straightening the hair, like it's like the worst thing you can do to your hair on a daily basis, and even that, we're like, "Let's get that out the door." Like, flat irons, just get rid of them. 'Em, they're damaging your hair, and, straight hair is a style if you naturally have straight hair, but, like, learning to embrace your body, the volume, the texture, and all that is it's
Mhm.
always gonna be the best look on you if that's what you naturally have.
I mean, I won't lie. I love straight hair too. Like I will wear my hair. I don't really straighten my natural hair. I'll wear a wig and
Right.
have straight hair. But like the
Isn't it
thing
like
is, you
it
should be able to
totally
wear it
changes
however
your
you want.
texture? Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, a straight hair and I mean, they all give you personally, they all give me, like, a different kind of feel, like, a different kind of character.
exactly. Like right now she's giving like warrior princess. That's how
Oh,
I'm
I
feeling.
love it. Really, it's so beautiful. Okay, let's talk about current textured hair trends. What are we seeing, like, the most of now? And yes, things have shifted a lot, but what would you say that you were seeing as
I think
of
there was
late?
Yeah, one I think that's really cool is like there's a lot of curl specialists that are out there right now, and they are really about you getting from that moment of the big chop that I was just talking about to really figuring out what your curl pattern is and like letting those curls pop as much as possible and teaching you how to do that, which is its own process. And so I love the like curly defined curl is what I would call it looks and also with the cuts that go along with that a defined curl. So if you're looking at curl specialists, they typically are the ones that do that. What I'm wearing right now actually is faux locks and it has like some huey hair that's in it that's like curly and it's kind of got an organic bohemian vibe. I personally, obviously, I like it because I'm wearing it, but I also think it's a really cool look and other protective styles
Yeah,
that are
I
like
like
braids and stuff like
your
that.
hair looks like a hybrid, right? It's like it looks like
It is.
individual curls, but then it's locks.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's fun. It's like it's just good. I like big hair. I like organic looking big hair that's like kind of doing its own thing. It's not too tame. That's kind of my vibe. I'm always like pro like rebellious hair. I love vivid color on curls is just like
Mm.
chef's kiss for
Mhm.
me. So that's
So
another cool
beautiful.
that is really a beautiful look that I love. And then also like the shaggy, I forgot what they're calling the haircut now, but it's essentially like a mullet, but it's like a curly mullet.
Yeah.
Those are right.
Yeah, so
Love.
beautiful. So
Yeah.
beautiful, so full of character.
Mm,
Actually, tell me something. You said you have a 4-year-old, right? And
yeah.
a newborn?
Yes. And a 3 month old.
And a 3-month-old?
Yes.
And your 4-year-old's a girl?
It's a boy.
It's a
I have
boy?
a 4 year old
Okay.
boy and I have a 3 month old daughter.
A daughter. Okay, got it. So,
Yeah.
what's your approach gonna be with her specifically? How do you think you're gonna, like, help her through her hair journey?
Well, I think the main thing is I want her to feel confident and beautiful with the hair that she has. I think that's where it all starts, especially when you have curly or coily hair. I do think things are changing dramatically. So it's not going to be the same as when I was growing up. But I think that just being able to embrace your curl the way that it naturally is, but also know that a head is a canvas. Like I talk about natural hair and curls a lot. And so there could be a perspective that that's all that I'm about. I will bleach my hair. I will straighten my hair.
Mhm.
It's a canvas. It's something that I have a lot of respect for and I love it, but I also believe I'm a creative person. I need to express myself. And so I think that my daughter will be able to really express herself. I'm not a strict wire. So she probably will be able to have some color and some craziness going on. I
Love
want
it.
her to whip her hair back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not gonna take her to the hair salon and get her to chemically straighten her hair right away, right?
No, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. We're not doing that
Right.
at all. We will
At
be, no,
all.
we won't be doing that at all.
Mhm.
But definitely she'll be able to just have some fun with it and see it as a canvas.
I don't doubt it. So, okay, so what are women completely moving away from then, if we haven't already touched on it,
Yeah, I think we did touch on a lot
right?
of it. It's really, really moving away from feeling like they have to. There's no shoulds with hair, except for maybe things that are harmful to your body. But there really aren't any shoulds around hair. You should, I guess, be able to wear your hair how you want. And that should be easy to do. So you need to be able to find somebody to do that. I think also moving away from just this idea that anything is unruly, unprofessional, like there's no standard. You are the standard. You were born. That's how your hair looks. You are the standard. And then I think a lot of people have been moving away from harsh chemicals, but I think that is, I say that with the caveat that I think it's about care and it's about understanding what is the consequence of this thing. So if done right, you can bleach your hair, you can color your hair, and then you can have healthy hair. But it's about actually being knowledgeable or working with a stylist that's knowledgeable enough to give you that experience so that people's hair isn't being damaged and they don't even know that that's happened a lot.
Well, this was such a great talk, and I'm so happy that you came on, Steph, and thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Tell everybody where they can find you, tell them about the website, all your handles, all your hashtags, whatever it is. Let them know how to find you.
The company is Crownhunt and Master Curl with our online classes taught by the leading experts in the industry on curl. You can go to crownhunt.io in order to go ahead and sign up for our wait list. You could even actually pay in advance for the year subscription, and you can get 2 years for one if you do that because we're early and we want to embrace this early community that's coming together with us. So that's where you can go for that. We're on Instagram. We pop in on Instagram, so at Crownhunt. And if you are curious about following me and my stats, I'm at Stephanie Laflora. On there, I'm sharing hair tips and stuff for consumers. And so our Crown Hunt is really more geared towards hairstylists.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You were so great. I absolutely loved our conversation.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you've heard and you can think of a few other women to share this podcast with, please do leave me a quick review in whichever platform you're listening from. And if you have any recommendations or comments, email me at grow@hairlikehers.co or follow me at Hair Like Hers Podcast on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.